Hello fellow makeup lovers, how are you guys doing today? I'm so excited for this video because we are finally going to be doing a full comparison of my collaboration, the Adept Cosmetics and Amy Loves Eyeshadow Palette with the Ensley Reign Cold Moon Palette. I think that if you love cool tones, these are two of the best cool tone palettes available. Obviously, I am biased because I created this color story, but that was my entire life's purpose with this palette, was to create the perfect cool tone neutral palette that just had every little pop, and it was still fun and interesting, but just something you could really reach for every day or for special occasions, a one and done kind of palette. And then for the Cold Moon palette, I feel like this has some very similar vibes and some really cute things going on. I also absolutely love this palette, adore it. I think these palettes really stand on their own, so I kind of wanted to show you that and really show you close-up swatches of everything that maybe you think looks similar. So we're going to go through and do all of the mattes, and then we're going to also go through and compare all of these shimmers side by side in their color groupings so that you can really visualize the differences between the two palettes. I am currently working on a battle of the cool tone palettes, and I think that this video will be a really great helpful addition to that once I do film it. But I think so many cool tone palettes that I've tried in the past just left something to be desired, and with these two I am 100% satisfied. So let's start comparing. Amy Loves Eyeshadow Palette does retail for $69. You can use any affiliate code to bring it down 10%. And in this palette, we've got 10 shimmers and 5 mattes. We've also got a holochrome and a super true multi-chrome, and then this extra sparkly shadow. I would say those are like the standout formulas there. And then we've got a mixture of metallics and some just like light sparkly shades, 15 shades total. The Cold Moon palette does retail for $72, and again, you can use an affiliate code to take it down 10%. This palette has 21 shades total, 11 being shimmers and 10 being mattes. So the amount of shimmers between each palette is similar, but the Cold Moon is a little bit more matte heavy. And I would say you also have more lighter mattes, which we really don't have featured in the Adept palette. As far as the shimmers go, there are a few different formulas here. I'd say we have some pretty true metallic finishes. We have a few like more sparkly shades, and then we also have a holochrome and more super chunky shadows, which I will say these are not the easiest to use with a brush. And with my palette with Adept, I feel like every single shimmer you can pick up pretty well with a brush, but it really just depends on your preferences. These are absolutely stunning. If you're using your finger, just gonna be a little bit more messy. So starting off with the mattes, I think I'm just gonna go ahead and swatch all of the shades that we really don't have anything comparable between both palettes, just to get them out of the way quickly, because we do have a lot more mattes happening in Cold Moon. So we've got some really light matte shades, which all of the mattes in my palette are medium to deep. We also have a more like peachy, warm tone, super smooth. We've got some kind of mauve-y, purpley tones. And then from my palette, I would say the only shade that we have that we don't have anything to compare to is Mi Amor, which is kind of a grungy periwinkle. Okay. Oh, and I almost forgot, we also have this light kind of sagey green pale shade. The part where you think it might get a little bit repetitive is definitely with the gray and the brown mattes. So we've got Mocha here, which is kind of a soft purpley toned gray. I would say like mid-tone, and I think that's most comparable to Transformation, which is another soft gray, but just a slightly different undertone. We also have Billion Much, which is a little bit more brown and a little bit deeper than Mocha. And that I would say is closer to Rebirth, which is another nice mid-tone kind of gray shade. But again, this has slightly less purpley tones than the grays from my palette. We've got Adept. Just build it up a little bit. My skin is kind of dry because this is the second time I filmed this video. There's Ensley Reign, Adept, and Ensley Reign. You can see we've definitely got some similarities going on. I might actually build all those up just to show you, because I feel like you can really see a color truly when you build it up more. Next, we have 1997, which is a mid-tone cool brown, and I want to compare that to Garnet, even though this is much warmer, and Mother's Night, which I think is also a little bit deeper. Okay, so there's Adept, Ensley Reign, and Ensley Reign. The deepest shade in my palette is Scrunchy, which is a really nice kind of blackened purple. I feel like we have a nice variety between both, and we really don't have a single shade that is repeating. And then of course we've got our extra fun shades. So for the shimmers, I really want to compare these silvers first. So from the Adept palette, we have the shade Stunning, and this is just a super, super shiny, true silver shadow. And we have two silvers in the Cold Moon palette. We've got kind of more of a satiny shade, which I would say the color is similar, but Stunning is definitely a way more metallic, more shiny formula. We also have Wolf Moon, which is a slightly warmer gold than Stunning, and it does have some sparkles throughout it as well. It's very shiny. And then we also have Caramel, which I would say is an even warmer silver than Wolf Moon. We've got Adept. This is one of my favorite shadows ever. So beautiful. Ensley Reign. Ensley Reign. And Adept. I feel like this is one of those moments where someone could look at this little set of swatches and say like, oh, they're all silvers, like they're the same. But I feel like if you are a cool tone lover, then you can recognize that these are all different and they all have their purpose and they're all beautiful for different reasons. So I am not mad at all. I feel like we do not have any repeats. Personally, no dupes happening here. We also have a slightly similar shade between the pinky tones. So in the Adept palette, we have Flora, which is a very metallic kind of pinky purple shade. We've got Forbidding in the Cold Moon palette, which is a little bit less purple, but a pretty similar kind of just pretty metallic finish. And then in the Adept palette, we also have Glam, which is a little bit more of a rose gold silver versus this doesn't really have any silver to it, but it's kind of, you know, along the same lines. And this is a very, very, very sparkly shade. So we've got Adept, Ensley Reign, and Adept. I feel like those are gorgeous, but again, definitely different from one another. Okay, in both palettes, we have a few different kind of purple to green to blue shifting multichromes. So I really want to compare those. We have Lavender, which is such an intense purple to gold to blue to green shifting shade, and that is pretty similar to Snow Crystal. I would say Snow Crystal has a slightly more like putty-like feeling in the pan. I don't know if you can tell, you can move it around a little bit more. The shade is similar, but the shift of Lavender has a little bit more purple to it. It also has a stronger blue flip. We've also got Citronella here, which this is a super like putty-like, more chunky shade. And that one, again, same kind of vibes, but it has less blue to it and it's more purple to green. So we've got Adept, Ensley Reign, Ensley Reign. Those look so beautiful. And just to show you with my mirror, hopefully you can see the difference and shift a little bit more there. Like I said, I feel like those two shades are pretty similar. I do prefer the formula of Lavender a little bit more, but those are probably the closest shades we have in the palette. But again, they're very complex, interesting multichromes, and I feel like in person you can see those subtle differences even more. And then, let me see, we also have this shade here I wanted to swatch in this category because it's kind of got like that purple, green, gold flipping thing going on. But this one I would say is pretty different because it also has some pink and it is a holochrome shade. It's got some beautiful rainbowness to it. We also have Snowdrop here. Oh, I don't know if you guys could see that. Snowdrop, which again, very chunky, very similar to this shade. And from my palette, we have Pisces, which is a super true purple base with a green flip. And this one's more of a duochrome, but the flip is very, very intense. And I feel like this is a super easy one to capture. Like it just looks super shifty. So there is Ensley Reign, and Adept. And then for more purpley blue shades, we do have a few options, but I don't feel like they're very similar at all. I'm just gonna swatch them together so you can see them. We have Indie, which is a blue purple shimmer with a holochrome throughout it as well. We've got this kind of like pinky purple base with a blue shift to it. I don't feel like those are similar at all. And then we've got another purple blue here, and I feel like this is kind of the same shade as Indie, but just a different finish because this is more metallic and this has those rainbow sparkles. So there is Adept, Ensley Reign. I think those are the last similar shimmers I want to compare. They're all beautiful. We've definitely got some matching vibes happening, but I need both of these in my life. Okay, lastly, for the shimmers that we don't have anything comparable to between both palettes, from the Adept palette, we have Lights Up, which is a white with a pink shift to it. It's just a really pretty satiny shade. And this definitely does stand out because it is the lightest shimmer overall, and you don't really have like a super light highlighting shade in the Cold Moon palette. We also have the shade Pink, which is a satin true baby pink shade. Another absolute favorite of mine. It's a go-to shade. I feel like it really adds to this color story, and I think it would be really cute using that in combination with some of these purpley kind of tones right here. And then we also have Vibes, which is a really pretty, super sparkly deep gray. And again, I feel like that kind of stands out in comparison to Cold Moon because this is the deepest shimmer out of everything we've got going on here. I'm gonna swatch these on my hand because my arm is literally so done with me today. But there you go. From the Ensley Reign palette, we have this shade here called Aurora. And this is definitely very different. Again, it's a chunky kind of putty shadow, but this has a orangey pinky base with a green flip. Definitely a pop of warmth in not only this palette, but in comparison, there is no warmth in my shimmers. So it's something a little bit different, and the shift is really, really pretty. I mean, that is gorgeous. And then we also have Borealis, which is a green base with a purple flip to it. Something else a little bit different. I have to say that when I first watched these side by side, which was like, you know, an hour ago, because this is my second time filming this. I forgot to turn my mic on the first time. It's fine. But the first time around, I was very surprised to see that there really are not any repeating shades. I thought maybe we would have a few things that were closer, but overall, these two palettes are extremely complementary of one another, and I could 100% see having both of these in a collection and it not being like a wild choice. However, if you were trying to decide on just one, I feel like price point is pretty similar between both of these. The Cold Moon palette does not have a mirror and my palette does. Both of them have magnetic shadows that you can take out and move around. Obviously, the Ensley Reign's a little bit easier because you have a little slot right there, but you can use a magnet with the Adept, or you can be very, very careful and kind of like slide it to the side and pull them out, and you can rearrange these. I feel like the Cold Moon palette is a little bit more matte heavy. So if you're really into having more matte options, then this might be better for you. but I did create my mattes with all skin tones in mind, which is why I didn't opt for some of these lighter matte shades. Both of these palettes have some really beautiful shimmers going on. In my opinion, the Adept palette is easier to use with a brush. The shimmers pick up better. I don't mind. I love using them with my finger, but if you are more of a brush kind of girl, like that's just something to keep in mind. I also think that which one I would recommend you would be based on how much you love cool tones, because if you're just trying to get into them, maybe they're not always your vibe and you want a little something else in the palette, I think you might enjoy Cold Moon because it does have some pops of warmth going on that kind of, you know, give you more options. But if you're like, no, I strictly want all my cool tones in one place, I think that you would enjoy the Adept palette. Of course, I think both of these really have that like partly neutral, partly colorful, super fun, unique, spicy, cool toned palette vibes going on. So I love them both. I really, really do. That's the best comparison I can do. I'm trying my absolute best to be as unbiased as possible, but I love this palette with my whole heart. But Cold Moon is also my favorite Ensley Reign palette, and I'm really, really happy that I have both of them. So I hope that this was helpful for you. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you tomorrow for another day of Indiemas. Bye!